Welcome back to another episode of Infidelity Tales Lab. We're thankful for your continued viewership. Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? We love knowing our global reach. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1, Hidden Cracks. Vincent Hargrove surveyed his custom-built home from the driveway, briefcase in hand. 5,000 square feet of pristine architecture nestled in Baltimore's most exclusive neighborhood. A testament to 15 years of ruthless dominance in medical tech development. At 42, Vincent had built his company, Nexus Bionics, from nothing into a billion-dollar enterprise specializing in cutting-edge prosthetics and implantable medical devices. Daddy, 10-year-old Molly burst through the front door, her auburn hair bouncing as she ran toward him. Vincent's stern expression softened as he caught her. "Careful, princess. You're getting bigger," he said, noticing how much heavier she felt in his arms. His brow furrowed slightly. She'd been gaining weight steadily over the past few months despite no significant changes to her diet or activity. "I made honor roll again," Molly announced proudly. "That's my girl." He set her down, ruffling her hair. "Where's your mother?" As if summoned, Dominique Hargrove appeared in the doorway. At 38, she remained strikingly beautiful, tall, blonde, impeccably dressed in designer clothes that showcased her fitness-sculpted physique. "You're home early," she observed, her voice carrying a hint of surprise rather than welcome. Vincent checked his watch. Board meeting ended ahead of schedule. "Where's Mrs. Patterson?" Their housekeeper usually greeted him at this hour. "I gave her the afternoon off." Dominique's hand went to her neck, adjusting the high collar of her blouse, a nervous tic Vincent had noticed developing recently. Inside, Vincent loosened his tie and scrolled through work emails while Dominique prepared dinner with practiced efficiency. 15 years of marriage had developed a comfortable rhythm between them, though lately, Vincent had sensed something different. Small changes in routine. Late-night text messages Dominique claimed were from her charity committee. Weekend brunches that ran suspiciously long. Dinner conversation revolved around Molly's school achievements. But Vincent couldn't help noticing how his daughter picked at her food despite claiming hunger earlier. "Everything okay, Molly?" he asked, studying her face. "My stomach hurts sometimes," she admitted quietly. "Since when?" Vincent's voice sharpened with concern. "It's just occasional childhood discomfort," Dominique interjected quickly. "Remember how Dr. Fuller said kids her age go through growth spurts?" Vincent looked between them, his instinct for detecting deception, honed through years of corporate negotiations, prickling uncomfortably. "If it persists, we're getting a second opinion." Later that night, Vincent stood at his bedroom window, watching the moonlight reflect off the swimming pool. Behind him, Dominique emerged from the bathroom in silk pajamas, her phone clutched in her hand. "The Westerlies invited us to their fundraiser next weekend," she said, not meeting his eyes. Vincent turned. "Preston Westerly from the hospital board? His wife Adrienne is on the Children's Foundation committee with me." "Convenient," Vincent remarked coldly. Dominique's head snapped up. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing." Vincent watched her face carefully. "Just thinking how entwined our social and professional circles have become." That night, Vincent awoke at 2:17 a.m. to find Dominique's side of the bed empty. Following the soft glow of light downstairs, he paused at the kitchen entrance, listening to his wife's hushed phone conversation. "I can't talk long." "No, he doesn't suspect anything. I know it's risky, but what choice do we have? She's getting worse. I understand the consequences." Vincent retreated silently up the stairs, his mind already calculating possibilities. Whatever Dominique was hiding involved Molly. And if there was one thing Vincent Hargrove never tolerated, it was threats to what belonged to him. Chapter 2, Growing Concerns. By early March, Molly's weight gain had become impossible to ignore. Her previously athletic frame had grown considerably rounder, her once energetic demeanor replaced by lethargy and frequent complaints of stomach pain. "I've scheduled an appointment with Dr. Witten," Vincent announced over breakfast, watching Dominique's reaction carefully. "Pediatric gastroenterologist?" she asked too quickly. "You know who he is?" Vincent's eyes narrowed. Research specialist." After Molly mentioned her stomach issues, Dominique stammered. But Dr. Fuller already. Fuller's a general pediatrician. Witten's the best in his field. Vincent cut her off. And I want the best for my daughter. That evening, Vincent accessed Dominique's laptop while she was at her book club, another recent addition to her schedule. Her browser history revealed deleted sections, but Vincent wasn't CEO of a tech company for nothing. Within minutes, he'd recovered fragments of searches related to childhood appetite stimulants, weight gain medications, and side effects of prednisone in children. More troubling was a pattern of communications with Preston Westerly that extended beyond charity work. Emails with vague references to the situation and continuing treatment, alongside meeting arrangements at odd hours. Vincent's investigation was interrupted by the garage door opening. He restored the computer to its previous state and retreated to his home office, where he placed a call to Ronan Sullivan, his company's head of security and former military intelligence officer. Sullivan, I need discreet surveillance on my wife and comprehensive background on Preston Westerly. Personal, professional, everything. And I need the name of the best private investigator in the city. Something serious, boss? Sullivan asked, the only person who could pose such a question to Vincent without repercussion. That depends on what you find. 2 days later, Vincent sat across from Dr. Witten as the specialist examined Molly's test results with growing concern. Mr. Hargrove, these hormone levels are extremely unusual for a child Molly's age, Witten explained, pointing to highlighted numbers. She's showing elevated cortisol, abnormal thyroid function, and several markers that suggest she's been exposed to multiple medications typically prescribed for adults. Meaning, Vincent's voice was dangerously quiet. Someone may be deliberately administering medications, causing these symptoms. Has Molly been taking any supplements? Anything given to her regularly? Vincent thought of the special vitamin smoothies Dominique had started making for Molly each morning. Possibly. We need to run additional tests. And frankly, this may require involving authorities if... Not yet, Vincent interrupted, his mind racing. Document everything, but I need time to handle this, privately. That evening, Vincent watched through the kitchen doorway as Dominique prepared Molly's bedtime snack, a special yogurt parfait she claimed helped with sleep. When Dominique stepped away to answer the door for a package delivery, Vincent quickly swapped the parfait with an identical one he'd prepared earlier, taking the suspicious food for testing. Later, after ensuring Molly was safely asleep, Vincent confronted Dominique in their bedroom. Preston Westerly, he said simply, watching her face drain of color. What's your relationship with him? He's a colleague, she responded weakly. Try again. Vincent's voice remained level, but his eyes had turned to ice. Phone records show 67 calls between you in the past month. His car has been photographed at the Lakeside Motel when you claimed to be at charity events. Want me to continue? Dominique sank onto the bed. It's not what you think. What I think, Vincent said, stepping closer, is that whatever you two are involved in has affected my daughter's health. And that, Dominique, is something I will never forgive. Chapter 3, Breaking Point. The laboratory results arrived via encrypted email the following morning. Molly's yogurt contained traces of multiple prescription medications, corticosteroids, appetite stimulants, and sedatives, a combination that explained her weight gain, lethargy, and stomach pain. Vincent's hands shook with barely controlled rage. Someone was poisoning his daughter, and all evidence pointed to his own wife. Sullivan's investigation had yielded more disturbing connections. Preston Westerly, beyond his position on the hospital board, was conducting unauthorized clinical trials on an experimental weight management protocol for children. His research funding had been quietly revoked 6 months ago for ethical violations, but evidence suggested he'd continued in secret. Vincent made 2 calls, first to his attorney to discuss custody proceedings, then to the private security team he'd assembled. By afternoon, surveillance equipment had been discreetly installed throughout the house. That evening, Vincent maintained a facade of normalcy, informing Dominique he'd be traveling for business the following day. Instead, he monitored the house remotely from a hotel 5 minutes away. The footage revealed Dominique meeting Westerly in the guest house at 11 a.m. Vincent watched with growing fury as they discussed increasing Molly's dosage and accelerating the timeline. The preliminary results are promising, Westerly said, reviewing data on his tablet. At this growth rate, she'll qualify for the trial's final phase in 3 weeks. But the side effects, Dominique protested weakly. She's in pain, Preston. Minor discomfort for groundbreaking research, Westerly dismissed. Think of the children will help once the protocol is approved. Your daughter is helping change medicine. And my stake in the pharmaceutical patent, Dominique asked, secured. Once Brightline Pharmaceuticals acquires my research, we'll both be very wealthy. Your husband's company might dominate prosthetics, but our drug will revolutionize childhood obesity treatment. Vincent had heard enough. He forwarded the footage to his attorney with instructions for immediate action and returned home unexpectedly, finding Dominique alone in the kitchen preparing Molly's lunch. Going somewhere? Vincent asked, noticing the partially packed suitcase in the hallway. Dominique jumped. Vincent, I thought you were in Chicago. Clearly, he replied coldly. Planning a trip with our daughter? Molly needs a change of scenery. The beach house would. Stop lying. Vincent's voice was deadly quiet. I know everything, Dominique. About Westerly, the medications, your plans for Molly. Dominique's expression hardened. You don't understand. This research will help thousands of children. Molly's temporary discomfort serves a greater purpose. You've been poisoning our daughter for profit, Vincent growled, advancing toward her. It's not poison. Dominique snapped. It's control medication under a doctor's supervision. A doctor conducting illegal trials on children, Vincent corrected. Tell me, how much is our daughter's health worth? What's your cut of the patent? Dominique's silence confirmed his worst suspicions. I've already contacted my attorney, Vincent continued. You'll be served with divorce papers tomorrow. As for custody, you can't prove anything, Dominique interrupted. It's my word against yours, and no judge will separate a mother from her child based on unsubstantiated accusations. Vincent smiled coldly. That's where you're wrong. Every medication you've given Molly has been documented and preserved as evidence. Every conversation with Westerly recorded. You're not just losing this marriage, Dominique. You're facing criminal charges. Dominique's face contorted with rage and fear. You bastard. You've always controlled everything, everyone. This was my chance at independence, at creating something important without living in your shadow. By experimenting on our daughter? Vincent's voice rose for the first time. You want independence? You'll have plenty of time for that in prison. That night, Vincent sat beside Molly's bed, watching her fitful sleep and calculating how long it would take for the medications to leave her system. His phone vibrated with a text from Sullivan. Surveillance shows Westerly entering Southgate. Approaching main house, Vincent kissed Molly's forehead and descended the stairs just as the doorbell rang. Preston Westerly stood on the threshold, confidence personified in his bespoke suit and practiced smile. Vincent, unexpected pleasure. Is Dominique available? She's indisposed, Vincent replied evenly. But I've been looking forward to meeting you properly. Perhaps another time, Westerly suggested, suddenly wary. I just needed to drop off some committee documents. At 9 p.m.? I don't think so. Vincent blocked the doorway. I believe we have much to discuss. About my daughter. About your research. About your relationship with my wife. Westerly's professional demeanor faltered. I don't know what Dominique has told you, but she hasn't told me anything, Vincent interrupted. But you will. Every detail of what you've been giving my daughter, why, and who else is involved. Your career and freedom depend on it. As Westerly began stammering excuses, Molly's cry echoed from upstairs, followed by the sound of retching. Vincent bounded up the stairs to find his daughter collapsed on the bathroom floor, pale and trembling. Daddy, she whispered, I don't feel good. Vincent gathered her into his arms, his heart pounding as he felt her burning forehead. Call 911, he shouted downstairs, not caring whether Westerly or Dominique responded. As the ambulance sirens approached, Vincent cradled his semi-conscious daughter, whispering, Hold on, princess. I'll fix this. I promise. Chapter 4. Emergency. The emergency room erupted into controlled chaos as Vincent burst through the doors carrying Molly, her small body limp in his arms. Medical staff swarmed around them, voices urgent but professional as they transferred her to a gurney. 10-year-old female, presenting with sudden onset vomiting, fever, and altered consciousness. The intake nurse rattled off as a doctor rushed forward. She's been experiencing weight gain, stomach pain, and lethargy for months, Vincent added, his usually commanding voice tinged with desperation. She may have been given medications without proper medical supervision. Dr. Laurel Thornfield, the attending physician, shot him a sharp look. What medications? Corticosteroids, appetite stimulants, possibly sedatives. I had samples tested yesterday. Vincent handed over a flash drive. The full lab report is here. Dr. Thornfield's expression darkened as she scanned the information on her tablet. This is consistent with medication poisoning. We need a full tox screen, comprehensive metabolic panel, and liver function tests immediately. And page pediatric intensive care. As they wheeled Molly away, Vincent caught her small hand. I'll be right here, princess. You're going to be okay. In the waiting area, Vincent paced like a caged predator, ignoring the calls flooding his phone from Dominique. Sullivan materialized beside him, his presence solid and reassuring. Boss, Westerly tried to flee after the ambulance left. My team is holding him at the house until police arrive. And Dominique? Also contained. She's demanding lawyers. Vincent nodded grimly. Keep them separated. I want full surveillance on both. If either attempts to contact anyone besides attorneys, I want to know immediately. Hours passed in agonizing slowness. Around midnight, Dr. Thornfield approached, her face grave. Mr. Hargrove, Molly's condition is critical but stabilizing. She's experiencing acute adrenal crisis. Her body's reaction to the abrupt withdrawal of corticosteroids that were apparently being administered regularly, combined with what appears to be an overdose within the last 24 hours. Vincent's blood ran cold. Overdose. The levels in her system are consistent with someone giving her significantly more than the previous doses. Without intervention, it could have been fatal. The implication hit Vincent like physical blow. After their confrontation, Dominique must have given Molly a larger dose, either in panic or deliberate malice. We're implementing appropriate treatment protocols, Dr. Thornfield continued. But Mr. Hargrove, I've had to notify Child Protective Services and the police. Deliberate medication poisoning of a child is a criminal matter. I understand. I want the people responsible prosecuted to the fullest extent, Vincent replied, his voice hard. When can I see her? She's being settled in pediatric ICU. A nurse will take you shortly. But sir, Dr. Thornfield hesitated. Given the circumstances, an officer will need to speak with you as well. Vincent spent the remainder of the night beside Molly's bed, watching the rhythm of her breathing stabilize as medications countered the damage inflicted on her small body. By morning, 2 detectives from Baltimore PD's Special Victims Unit arrived, accompanied by a CPS caseworker. Detective Russell Barlow introduced himself, his weathered face betraying no emotion. Mr. Hargrove, we need to understand exactly what's happened to your daughter. For the next hour, Vincent provided a detailed account, supplemented by the evidence he'd gathered, the lab tests of Molly's food, surveillance footage of Dominique and Westerly's conversations, and documentation from Dr. Witten's examination. You've been thorough, Detective Barlow observed, reviewing the materials. Most parents in your situation wouldn't have the presence of mind or resources to collect this kind of evidence. I protect what's mine, Vincent stated simply. The CPS caseworker, Ms. Daniels, leaned forward. Mr. Hargrove, we need to establish a safety plan for Molly upon discharge. Given the allegations against her mother, my daughter will remain exclusively in my custody, Vincent interrupted. I've already filed emergency papers through my attorney. Nevertheless, we'll need to conduct our own investigation, Ms. Daniels persisted. Investigate all you want, Vincent responded coldly. But my daughter doesn't leave my sight. As morning stretched into afternoon, Molly's condition improved enough for her to regain consciousness. Her first words were confused. Daddy? Where's Mom? Vincent stroked her hair gently. Mom can't be here right now, princess. But I'm not going anywhere. Molly's eyes filled with tears. It was the special smoothies and snacks, wasn't it? The ones that were supposed to make me stronger and healthier. What do you mean, Molly? Vincent asked carefully, aware that Detective Barlow had quietly entered the room. Mom and Dr. Preston said I was special, that I was helping other kids by taking the special medicine. Molly explained, her voice small. But it made my tummy hurt, and I kept getting bigger even though I wasn't eating more. When I told Mom I wanted to stop, she said, her voice faltered. What did she say, sweetheart? Vincent encouraged gently. She said, sometimes we have to do hard things for the greater good. That the medicine would help thousands of children someday, and I should be proud. Molly's face crumpled. But I didn't want to take it anymore, Daddy. It made me feel so sick. Detective Barlow stepped forward. Molly, I'm Detective Barlow. Would it be okay if I asked you a few questions about these special smoothies? As Molly recounted months of being given special foods and supplements, Vincent's phone vibrated with a text from Sullivan. Police have taken Westerly and Dominique into custody. Charges pending. Also, discovered Westerly attempting to delete files from home computer. Data recovery team working now. Vincent excused himself briefly to make a call to his attorney, instructing her to push for the most serious charges possible against both Dominique and Westerly. As he returned to Molly's room, Detective Barlow met him in the hallway. Mr. Hargrove, we're going to need you to come to the station. There's been a development. I'm not leaving my daughter, Vincent stated firmly. Sir, Barlow's voice lowered. The officers at your home discovered something during their search. Your wife is demanding to speak with you immediately. She says it concerns Molly's parentage. Vincent's expression didn't change, but something cold and deadly settled in his eyes. Have the officers bring her here. Whatever she has to say, she can say it in custody with my attorney present. Chapter 5. Shattered Truths. An hour later, Vincent sat in a private conference room at the hospital. His attorney, Marissa, fell beside him. Across the table, Dominique, handcuffed and escorted by an officer, glared at him with a mixture of defiance and desperation. 5 minutes, Detective Barlow announced, and everything said in this room will be recorded. Vincent, Dominique began, her voice attempting warmth that didn't reach her eyes. This has all gone too far. You know I would never deliberately harm Molly. Save it. Vincent cut her off. The evidence is overwhelming. You're facing felony child endangerment charges at minimum, possibly attempted murder after yesterday's overdose. It wasn't an overdose. Dominique protested. Preston said increasing the dosage was necessary to advance your illegal drug trial, to secure your pharmaceutical patent. Vincent's voice remained terrifyingly calm. Detective Barlow mentioned you had something to say about Molly's parentage. Make it quick. Dominique's expression transformed, calculation replacing her feigned contrition. You've always been so certain of everything, Vincent. So confident in your control. But there's something even the great Vincent Hargrove doesn't know. She leaned forward, dropping her voice. Molly isn't your biological daughter. The room went silent. Vincent's face revealed nothing, but Marissa placed a cautioning hand on his arm. Preston and I have been involved for 12 years, Dominique continued, watching for any reaction. Molly is his child, not yours. The DNA will prove it. Vincent studied his wife with the cold assessment he usually reserved for business rivals preparing to be destroyed. Is it your attempt at leverage? You think threatening me with this will somehow mitigate what you've done? It's not a threat. It's a reality you'll have to face in court, Dominique responded. The custody battle changes completely when paternity is disputed, and Preston's research, while perhaps ethically questionable, was conducted with the biological father's consent, which would make Westerly equally culpable. Marissa interjected. Biological relationship or not, he participated in systematically poisoning a child. That's still a felony. Vincent stood abruptly. We're done here. Detective, I'll submit to any DNA test the court requires, but my daughter's medical treatment takes priority over these desperate tactics. As Vincent turned to leave, Dominique called after him. She was never supposed to be harmed. The protocol was safe until... Vincent paused, turning slowly. Until what? Dominique's eyes darted to the detective, then back to Vincent. Until someone tampered with the medication yesterday. The dose I gave her wasn't what caused the collapse. Someone must have switched or contaminated it. Detective Barlow stepped forward. Mrs. Hargrove, are you alleging someone else poisoned your daughter? The medication I've been giving her was carefully measured, Dominique insisted. Whatever caused her collapse yesterday wasn't what I administered. Vincent exchanged glances with Detective Barlow, whose expression remained professionally neutral. We'll investigate all possibilities, Mrs. Hargrove. Now, you'll be transported to central booking for processing. Back in Molly's hospital room, Vincent found Dr. Thornfield reviewing her latest test results. Her numbers are improving, the doctor reported. The emergency treatment protocol is working. If this continues, she could be stable enough for discharge in a few days, though she'll need ongoing care to address the long-term effects of the medications. Whatever she needs, Vincent assured her. I'll arrange for the best specialists. After Dr. Thornfield left, Vincent sat beside Molly's bed, watching her sleep peacefully for the first time in months. His phone vibrated with a message from an unknown number. Package delivered to your office, as requested. Contents may shock you. Dr. M. Vincent recognized the cryptic signature of Dr. Meera Agarwal, the forensic toxicologist he'd engaged privately to analyze the medications found in Molly's system. Whatever she'd discovered had been significant enough to warrant special handling. As evening approached, Detective Barlow returned with news. Mr. Hargrove, we've spoken with the district attorney. Based on the evidence in Molly's statement, they're charging both your wife and Dr. Westerly with first-degree child endangerment, conspiracy to commit fraud, practicing medicine without proper consent, and related charges. And the overdose? Vincent asked pointedly. We're still investigating that aspect, Barlow replied carefully. The timing coincides with your confrontation with Mrs. Hargrove, which suggests possible intentional harm, but we need conclusive evidence. After Barlow left, Vincent called Sullivan. I need you at the hospital now. It's time to accelerate our contingency plans. Sullivan arrived 30 minutes later, bringing a secure laptop and documents requiring Vincent's signature. Everything's arranged as you specified, he reported. Safe house is prepared, security team assembled, and the jet is standing by if needed. Vincent signed the papers authorizing a series of financial maneuvers that would effectively isolate his assets from any claims Dominique might make. What about Westerly's research documents? Our team recovered everything before the police seized his computers, Sullivan confirmed. The data shows they've been running unauthorized trials on at least 7 other children, all with fabricated parental consent forms. Brightline Pharmaceuticals was prepared to pay millions for the protocol once it showed successful results in pediatric subjects. And the parents? Mostly single mothers in financial distress. Westerly offered them cash payments, disguised as study participation stipends. Vincent processed this information coldly. Contact those families anonymously. Make sure they have everything they need to pursue their own legal action against Westerly and Brightline. Sullivan nodded, then hesitated. Boss, about Mrs. Hargrove's claim regarding Molly's paternity. Already handling it, Vincent cut him off. Whether it's true or not is irrelevant. Molly is my daughter in every way that matters. That night, as Molly slept under the watchful eye of a private nurse Vincent had hired, he slipped away to his company headquarters. In his office, he found the package Dr. Agarwal had sent, a sealed forensic envelope and detailed report. The findings confirmed his suspicions. The medication that had caused Molly's collapse contained concentrated amounts of the original drugs, but also traces of a compound typically used in specialized research, a compound manufactured exclusively by a subsidiary of Brightline Pharmaceuticals. More damning was the timing. According to the molecular degradation analysis, this particular combination had been prepared less than 2 hours before Molly consumed it, during the exact time Dominique had been meeting with Westerly in the guest house. Vincent placed a call to Detective Barlow, his voice controlled despite the rage burning inside him. Detective, I have evidence that the overdose was premeditated. I'm sending it to you now. After ending the call, Vincent opened his safe and removed a small flash drive labeled simply contingency. On it was everything he'd need for what came next. The complete destruction of everyone involved in hurting his daughter. Chapter 6. The Unraveling. The following morning brought the arrival of hospital legal counsel and administrators, their faces grave as they requested an urgent meeting with Vincent. "Mr. Hargrove," began Gloria Montgomery, the hospital's chief legal officer, "we've been cooperating fully with the police investigation into Dr. Westerly's activities, and I'm afraid we've uncovered disturbing information that affects your daughter." Vincent sat perfectly still, his expression unreadable. "Go on." "Dr. Westerly was conducting unauthorized trials using an experimental compound developed by Brightline Pharmaceuticals," Montgomery explained. "What we didn't realize until now was the extent of the hospital's potential liability. It appears several administrators may have turned a blind eye to his activities in exchange for research funding." "Names," Vincent demanded. Montgomery hesitated. "That's still part of an ongoing internal investigation, but we wanted to inform you first because—" She slid a document across the table. "This appears to be a consent form with your signature, authorizing Molly's participation in the trial." Vincent examined the document, his jaw tightening imperceptibly. "This signature is forged." "We suspected as much," Montgomery nodded. "Which raises serious questions about how many other consent forms were falsified. The hospital board has authorized me to discuss settlement options with affected families, including yours." Vincent folded the document carefully and placed it in his jacket pocket. "Ms. Montgomery, let me be clear, I'm not interested in a settlement. I intend to see everyone involved in this, from Westerly to the board members who enabled him, face criminal charges and complete professional destruction. Mr. Hargrove, I understand your anger, but litigation could take years." "Then you'd better prepare for a long battle," Vincent interrupted coldly. "My daughter nearly died because your hospital failed in its most basic duty of care. No amount of money will change that, but I will ensure accountability at every level." After Montgomery departed, Vincent received a call from Detective Barlow. "The DA's reviewed the evidence you provided," Barlow informed him. "They're upgrading the charges against both Westerly and your wife to include attempted murder. The timing of the overdose and the specialized compound leaves little doubt about intent." "What about Brightline Pharmaceuticals?" Vincent asked. "Search warrants are being executed at their offices as we speak," Barlow confirmed. "Initial findings suggest executives were aware of Westerly's methods, but deliberately maintained distance to preserve deniability." "Not distance enough," Vincent remarked coldly. By afternoon, Molly had improved enough to sit up and eat solid food. Vincent sat beside her bed, helping her with a cup of applesauce, when his attorney arrived with news. "The judge granted the emergency custody order," Marissa reported quietly. "You have sole legal and physical custody pending the outcome of the criminal proceedings. Dominique's being denied bail due to flight risk and the severity of the charges." "And the paternity issue?" "The court has ordered DNA testing, but regardless of the outcome, her parental rights are likely to be terminated given the circumstances." Marissa hesitated. "Vincent, have you considered how you'll handle this with Molly if Westerly is her biological father?" Vincent finished, his voice low to avoid Molly overhearing. "Nothing changes. She's my daughter, period. I've raised her, loved her, protected her, and I'll continue to do so." That evening, as Molly slept, Vincent received a visit from Adrienne Westerly, Preston's wife. Elegant, even in distress, she requested a private conversation. "I had no idea what Preston was doing," she began once they were alone. "The police have seized everything, our accounts, properties, even my personal belongings as potential evidence. I'm not sure what you expect from me, Mrs. Westerly," Vincent replied coolly. "Information," she said simply. "The police aren't telling me anything. Preston won't speak to me. I need to understand what happened." Vincent studied her carefully. "Your husband was conducting illegal drug trials on children, including my daughter. He conspired with my wife to administer potentially lethal medications to Molly without my knowledge or consent, all for profit and professional recognition." Adrienne paled. "That's not possible. Preston is a respected pediatric researcher. He would never." "The evidence is conclusive," Vincent interrupted. And based on documents recovered from his office, this wasn't his first unauthorized trial. There are records of at least 3 previous studies involving children, all with questionable consent procedures. "Oh God," Adrian whispered, genuine horror crossing her face. "The trials in Atlanta 2 years ago, and before that in Boston. I thought those were legitimate studies." He told me they were revolutionizing childhood medicine. Vincent leaned forward. "What exactly do you know about those studies?" "Only what Preston shared, that they were developing targeted treatments for childhood obesity and related conditions." He was so proud of the results. Her voice faltered. "There were complications with some patients, but he said that was normal in clinical research." "Complications," Vincent repeated flatly. "Did these complications include the death of a 7-year-old boy in Boston?" "Jason Mercer. Does that name mean anything to you?" Adrienne's shocked expression answered before she could speak. "A child died?" Preston never mentioned. He told me the Boston study was discontinued due to funding issues. It was discontinued because Jason Mercer suffered fatal liver failure after receiving experimental medications similar to those given to Molly, Vincent informed her coldly. His parents were paid $3 million in a confidential settlement. The records were buried, the case never went public, and Westerly simply moved to a new hospital to continue his research. As the implications settled over her, Adrienne's composure crumbled. "I had investments in Brightline. Preston suggested them as a growth opportunity. Have I been profiting from this?" "Unwittingly or not," Vincent confirmed, "you've benefited from your husband's activities. The question now is what you're prepared to do about it." After a moment of silent deliberation, Adrienne straightened her shoulders. "Everything. I'll tell the prosecutors everything I know, the previous studies, the financial arrangements, the connections to Brightline executives. Preston doesn't deserve protection after what he's done." "A wise decision," Vincent nodded. "Detective Barlow will be interested in your testimony." After Adrienne left, Vincent stood at the window overlooking the hospital parking lot, watching her departure with calculated interest. His phone vibrated with a message from Sullivan. "DNA results in. Confirmation of your instructions requested." Vincent's reply was immediate. "Proceed as planned. All parameters." Later that night, as Vincent kept vigil beside Molly's bed, Dr. Thornfield arrived with updated test results. "Her system is clearing the medications more quickly than expected," the doctor reported with cautious optimism. "Her liver and kidney functions are improving, and the adrenal crisis has been successfully managed. If this trend continues, she could be discharged within 48 hours. To recover where?" Vincent asked. "Our home is still partially a crime scene." "I understand you've made alternative arrangements?" Dr. Thornfield inquired. Vincent nodded. "A private property with full medical facilities and security. My team is preparing it now." As morning approached, Vincent received the call he'd been anticipating. Detective Barlow's voice was strained even through the professional demeanor. "Mr. Hargrove, I need you to come to the station immediately." "My daughter." "This can't wait," Barlow interrupted. "It concerns your wife. There's been an incident at the detention center." Chapter 7. Calculated Moves. Vincent entered the police station at precisely 7:30 a.m., his appearance immaculate despite the sleepless night. Detective Barlow escorted him to a private conference room where Captain Eleanor Reese waited, her expression grim. "Mr. Hargrove," she began formally, "at approximately 4:17 this morning, your wife was found unresponsive in her cell. Despite emergency medical intervention, she was pronounced dead at 5:04 a.m. Vincent's face revealed nothing. "Cause? Preliminary indications suggest poisoning," Captain Reese answered, watching him carefully. "Toxicology is pending, but initial symptoms align with ingestion of a compound similar to what was found in your daughter's system, only at a significantly higher concentration." "Are you suggesting a connection?" Vincent asked coolly. "We're investigating all possibilities," Barlow interjected. "Security footage shows no unauthorized access to her cell, and she had no visitors except her attorney yesterday afternoon." "I was at the hospital all night with multiple witnesses," Vincent pointed out. if you're implying involvement on my part. We're simply informing you as next of kin, Captain Reese clarified. However, the timing and method raise obvious questions, especially given recent events. Vincent leaned forward slightly. Captain, my wife conspired to poison my daughter for profit. She betrayed our family in the most fundamental way possible. While I won't pretend to mourn her death, I had nothing to do with it. After answering further questions with practiced precision, Vincent was permitted to leave. Outside the station, Sullivan waited with the car. Everything is proceeding as anticipated, Sullivan reported once they were moving. The safe house is fully prepared. Medical staff have been vetted and secured, and the other matter has been addressed. Vincent nodded. And Westerly, being transferred to county detention this morning following his arraignment. Bail was denied. His reaction to the news about Dominique? Sullivan allowed himself a small smile. Complete breakdown. Demanded protective custody, claiming he'd be next. Perceptive of him, Vincent remarked coldly. Back at the hospital, Vincent found Molly awake and significantly improved. Some color returned to her cheeks as she watched cartoons on the room's television. Daddy, she brightened when he entered. Dr. Thornfield says I might go home soon. Vincent sat beside her, taking her small hand in his. Not home just yet, princess. We're going to stay somewhere special while you finish getting better. A beautiful house by the lake with your own nurse to help you. What about Mom? Molly asked hesitantly. Is she still in trouble? Vincent had prepared for this question, knowing honesty, measured and age-appropriate, was necessary. Molly, something very serious has happened. Your mother became very ill last night, and the doctors weren't able to help her. She's passed away. Molly's eyes widened, tears forming immediately. Mom died? Yes, sweetheart. Vincent gathered her gently into his arms. I'm so sorry. Was it because of this special medicine? The one she and Dr. Preston were giving me? Molly's perception startled him. The police are still figuring that out, Vincent answered carefully. But what's most important now is taking care of you and helping you get better. As Molly processed this information with the complex emotions only a child could experience, grief tangled with confusion and a lingering hurt of betrayal, Vincent held her, providing the stability she desperately needed. Later that afternoon, Dr. Thornfield approved Molly's discharge plan, impressed by the comprehensive medical arrangements Vincent had prepared. You've thought of everything, she observed, reviewing the documentation. The private nursing staff, physical therapy, psychological support. It's exactly what Molly needs for recovery. I protect what's mine, Vincent replied simply. As they prepared for departure, Marissa arrived with updates on the legal proceedings. Brightline Pharmaceuticals executives are being indicted, she reported. The evidence recovered from Westerly's computers in their offices was damning. They knew exactly what he was doing and bankrolled it specifically to circumvent proper clinical trial procedures. And the hospital board members who looked the other way? 3 have resigned already. The hospital is cooperating fully, eager to avoid the public relations disaster and potential criminal charges. Marissa hesitated. There's something else. The DNA results came back. Vincent maintained his composure. And Westerly is not Molly's biological father. Marissa studied his reaction carefully. You are. For the briefest moment, something almost like relief flickered across Vincent's face before his usual control reasserted itself. Dominique's final attempt at leverage, then, unsuccessful like all her others. There's more, Marissa continued. The medical examiner completed the preliminary autopsy on Dominique. The substance that killed her was a concentrated form of the experimental compound from Westerly's research, administered in what appears to be a self-injection. They found a syringe in her cell with her fingerprints exclusively. Suicide, Vincent stated flatly. That's the working theory, yes. Possibly out of remorse, or fear of facing the consequences. Marissa paused. The investigation remains open, but given the evidence, a fitting end, Vincent remarked coldly. She lived by these poisons and died by them. By evening, Vincent and Molly were settled in the lakeside property, an expansive, secluded estate with state-of-the-art security and medical facilities installed in a converted guest wing. As Molly slept under the watchful eye of her private nurse, Vincent received an encrypted call from Sullivan. Phase 2 is complete, Sullivan reported cryptically. Westerly's attorney received the complete documentation packet as arranged. The Boston case files, the Atlanta victims, everything. His reaction? Immediate meeting with prosecutors. He's offering full cooperation in exchange for placement in protective custody and consideration during sentencing. Let him talk, Vincent instructed. Once he's implicated everyone involved at Brightline and the hospital, we move to Phase 3. Over the next 2 weeks, Molly's recovery progressed steadily. The medications cleared from her system, her weight began normalizing, and the psychological counseling helped her process the complex trauma of her mother's betrayal and death. Vincent worked remotely, dividing his time between company operations and orchestrating the systematic destruction of everyone connected to Westerly's research. Each day brought new developments. Brightline stock plummeted as executives were arrested. Hospital administrators faced criminal charges for negligent oversight. Medical licenses were revoked. Careers and reputations disintegrated. Through carefully anonymized channels, Vincent ensured that every family affected by Westerly's previous trials received comprehensive documentation to pursue their own legal action. Class action lawsuits multiplied daily, targeting the deep pockets of the pharmaceutical company and hospital systems that had enabled the research. When Detective Barlow visited the safe house to update them on the investigation, he brought news that Dominique's death had been officially ruled a suicide. The case is closed on that aspect, Barlow informed Vincent. Though questions remain about how she obtained the compound inside a secure facility. Perhaps she had accomplices we haven't identified, Vincent suggested. Or perhaps it was her final attempt to escape justice. Barlow studied him thoughtfully. Perhaps. Westerly continues to cooperate extensively, apparently terrified that he'll meet a similar fate. His testimony has led to 12 additional arrests at Brightline and partnering research facilities. Justice works in unexpected ways, Vincent observed. As Barlow prepared to leave, he paused. Mr. Hargrove, in my 20 years on the force, I've never seen a case unravel so completely, so quickly. Every piece of evidence appearing at precisely the right moment. Every witness coming forward with exactly the right information. The truth has a way of emerging when powerful people can no longer suppress it, Vincent replied smoothly. Indeed, Barlow nodded. Especially when someone knows exactly where to look and who to pressure. Their eyes met in tacit understanding. Barlow recognizing the calculated orchestration behind the case's progression, Vincent acknowledging the detective's awareness without concern. Both men had their own definition of justice, and in this instance, they had aligned sufficiently. Chapter 8. The Reckoning. 3 months after Molly's hospitalization, Preston Westerly sat in the witness box of a federal courtroom, his once commanding presence reduced to a hollow shell. As the star witness for the prosecution, he had spent days detailing the full extent of his crimes, the unauthorized trials, the falsified data, the deliberate endangerment of children, and the deaths he had previously concealed. Vincent observed from the gallery, his face impassive as Westerly described the arrangement with Dominique. Mrs. Hargrove approached me initially, Westerly testified, after a fundraising event where I discussed my research. She expressed interest not just in the medical applications, but in the potential financial returns if the protocol was successful. She suggested Molly as a test subject, claiming the child had been showing early signs of metabolic issues that made her an ideal candidate. And you didn't verify this with her father? The prosecutor asked. Dominique assured me she had full medical authority for Molly. She produced what appeared to be signed consent forms. Westerly swallowed hard. I didn't scrutinize them as carefully as I should have. Let's be clear, Dr. Westerly, the prosecutor pressed. You administered experimental medications to a child without confirming proper parental consent, outside approved clinical protocols, and without proper oversight, correct? Yes, Westerly admitted, his voice barely audible. And this wasn't the first time, was it? Please tell the court about Jason Mercer. As Westerly recounted the death of the 7-year-old boy in Boston, a ripple of shock passed through the courtroom. Vincent's expression remained unchanged, though his eyes never left Westerly's face. Following the day's testimony, Vincent met with federal prosecutors handling the case against Brightline Pharmaceuticals. Their offices had been inundated with evidence. Internal memos, financial records, communications proving executives had knowingly funded Westerly's illegal research with full awareness of his methods. The CEO and chief medical officer will be indicted tomorrow, the lead prosecutor informed Vincent. The evidence your team uncovered is irrefutable. They destroyed lives for profit, Vincent stated coldly. Make sure the charges reflect that. Back at the lakeside property, now their permanent residence after Vincent had sold their former home, Molly was completing a session with her physical therapist. Her recovery had been remarkable. Her weight normalizing, energy returning, and the psychological wounds beginning to heal through consistent therapy. "Dad, watch this," she called as Vincent entered, demonstrating her ability to complete a complex balance exercise that had challenged her for weeks. "Impressive, princess," he smiled, one of the few genuine expressions he reserved exclusively for her. "Dr. Michaels says you're making exceptional progress." After dinner, as they sat on the deck overlooking the lake, Molly grew contemplative. "Dad, is Dr. Preston going to jail for a long time?" Vincent considered how to answer truthfully yet appropriately. "Yes, he is. The judge will decide exactly how long. But he's admitted to doing very bad things to you and other children." Molly nodded slowly. "And Mom helped him." "She did," Vincent confirmed gently. "But that doesn't mean she didn't love you in her own way. But she chose money over me," Molly observed with the painful clarity children sometimes possess. "That's what my therapist says, that sometimes adults make terrible choices even when they should know better." Vincent took her hand. "That's true. But I want you to know that I will always choose you, Molly. Always." Later that night, after Molly had gone to bed, Vincent received a call from Sullivan. "It's done," Sullivan reported. "The transfer is complete. Westerly's commissary account received the deposit as arranged. And the other inmates? Information has been selectively distributed. His protective custody request has been administratively delayed due to overcrowding." Vincent ended the call without further comment. Within hours, news would reach him that Preston Westerly had been brutally attacked in the shower area of the county jail, an unfortunate incident where guards had been inexplicably absent from their posts for precisely 7 minutes. The following day, as Westerly fought for his life in the prison medical ward, Vincent attended a board meeting at Nexus Bionics. His company had emerged unscathed from the scandal, his reputation enhanced by his public stance as a father fighting for justice after his daughter was victimized. "The acquisition of Brightline's research division has been approved," his CFO announced, "at the fire sale price we proposed, given their legal and financial situation." "Excellent," Vincent nodded. "Dismantle their current research programs and integrate any salvageable technologies into our pediatric division. And implement the new Ethics Oversight Committee immediately. I want this company to become the gold standard for research integrity." After the meeting, Vincent's private investigator delivered a final report on the remaining loose ends, individuals tangentially connected to Westerly's schemes who had thus far avoided prosecution. The hospital administrator who approved the initial research space allocation has resigned and relocated to Arizona, the investigator detailed. The lab technician who processed the samples without proper authorization has agreed to testify against remaining Brightline executives. "And Adrian Westerly?" "Yes," Vincent prompted. "She's filed for divorce and changed her name. Currently working at a medical nonprofit in Seattle, completely disconnected from her former life." Vincent considered this information. "Monitor her from a distance. No direct action unless she attempts to profit from her connection to this case." With methodical precision, Vincent had orchestrated the complete dismantling of everyone involved in harming Molly, from Dominique's suspicious death to Westerly's prison accident, from Brightline's corporate implosion to the professional destruction of every enabler. not through impulsive revenge, but through a carefully calculated series of legal maneuvers, strategic information releases, and occasionally, more direct interventions that could never be traced back to him. That evening, as he helped Molly with her science homework, his phone buzzed with a news alert. Preston Westerly had died from complications of his injuries, never having regained consciousness after the attack. Molly noticed the subtle shift in her father's expression. "Is everything okay, Dad?" Vincent set the phone aside. "Everything's fine, Princess. Just work news." He pointed to her assignment. "Now, tell me more about these cell structures you're studying." Chapter 9. New Foundations. 1 year after Molly's hospitalization, Vincent stood at the podium in the grand ballroom of Baltimore's finest hotel, addressing the assembled guests at the inaugural gala for the Hargrove Foundation for Medical Ethics and Child Protection. "We gather tonight not merely to launch a foundation," he began, his commanding presence drawing complete attention, "but to transform how medical research involving children is conducted, monitored, and regulated. What happened to my daughter and other children victimized by unethical practitioners cannot be allowed to happen again." The audience, comprising medical professionals, lawmakers, pharmaceutical executives, and victims' families, listened intently as Vincent outlined the Foundation's ambitious initiatives: independent oversight of pediatric clinical trials, legal advocacy for affected families, scholarships for ethics in medicine, and a whistleblower program that had already exposed 3 unauthorized research operations across the country. "From tragedy, we forge purpose," Vincent concluded. "From betrayal, we build safeguards. And from the darkest chapter of my family's life, we create a legacy of protection for all children." The applause was thunderous, particularly from the families seated in the front row. Parents whose children had been previous victims of Westerly's experiments, now finding justice and purpose through Vincent's methodically constructed support network. Following the speech, Vincent navigated the crowd with practiced ease, accepting congratulations and pledges of support. Among the attendees was Detective Barlow, now promoted to captain following his role in the Westerly case. "Impressive operation you've built," Barlow observed, gesturing to the Foundation's elaborate displays around the ballroom. "From victim to advocate in record time." "Sometimes the most effective advocates are those who understand the cost of failure firsthand," Vincent replied. Barlow's expression turned contemplative. "You know, the investigation into Dominique Hargrove's death was never quite satisfactory to me. Too many convenient coincidences." "Tragic events often involve coincidences, Captain. That's what makes them seem meaningful in retrospect." "Indeed," Barlow nodded slightly. "Just as it's coincidental that everyone who participated in harming your daughter has met with professional ruin, personal destruction, or death." Vincent met his gaze steadily. "Justice works in mysterious ways." "So it seems." Barlow extended his hand. "Congratulations on the Foundation, Mr. Hargrove. I have no doubt it will accomplish exactly what you intended to." The unspoken understanding passed between them. Barlow recognizing the architect behind a perfect revenge, Vincent acknowledging the detective's awareness without concern. Both men had their own moral codes, and in this instance, they had aligned just enough. Later that evening, Vincent returned to the lakeside home where Molly waited with her nanny. At 12, she had recovered fully from her ordeal, though regular therapy continued to help her process the complex emotions surrounding her mother's betrayal and death. "How was your big speech?" she asked, looking up from her book. "Successful," Vincent smiled, sitting beside her. "The Foundation raised over $10 million tonight. That's a lot of kids you'll be able to help," Molly observed thoughtfully. "Mom would have liked that part, I think. Not the way it happened, but that something good came from it." Vincent studied his daughter's face, seeing her remarkable resilience. Despite everything, she had found a way to reconcile the mother who had loved her with the woman who had betrayed her, a complexity Vincent himself had never attempted to resolve regarding Dominique. "Perhaps," he allowed, neither confirming nor contradicting Molly's attempt to find meaning. "Dad," Molly hesitated. "Miss Chambers asked us to write about heroes for English class. I wrote about you." "Me?" Vincent's surprise was genuine. You saved me, Molly said simply. And now you're saving other kids too. That's what heroes do, right? Vincent embraced her, this child who had somehow retained her capacity for love and hope despite experiencing betrayal by those meant to protect her. In that moment, he allowed himself to acknowledge what had driven his methodical campaign of destruction, not merely vengeance, but a fierce, primal need to protect what was his. The following morning, Vincent reviewed the final report from Sullivan on the remaining loose ends. Adrienne Westerly had maintained her new identity successfully, showing no signs of capitalizing on her connection to the case. The last of Brightline's executives had accepted a plea deal, ensuring the company's complete dismantling. And the hospital board members who had enabled Westerly had been permanently barred from medical administration. Is that everything? Vincent asked. One last item, Sullivan reported. The DNA samples from the paternity test, the ones showing you as Molly's biological father. Vincent's expression revealed nothing. What about them? They've been permanently sealed in the court records, as requested. No possibility of future examination or comparison. Vincent nodded slightly. Then we're truly finished. The complete erasure of everyone who threatened my family. Sullivan, who had orchestrated many of the coincidences that had befallen Westerly and his accomplices, understood the unspoken reality. The DNA results that had so conveniently confirmed Vincent as Molly's biological father had been as meticulously arranged as every other aspect of his revenge. Whether Westerly had actually been Molly's father would remain forever unknown. Vincent had ensured that truth, like so many others, was permanently obscured beneath layers of manufactured evidence and strategic intervention. In his world, reality was what he determined it to be, and he had determined that Molly was his daughter in every way that mattered. That afternoon, Vincent took Molly sailing on the lake, watching her laugh as she handled the small craft with growing confidence. Can we invite Zoe next time? She asked, referring to a friend from her new school. Her dad used to sail, but they don't have a boat anymore. Of course, Vincent agreed. Why don't we have her family over for dinner this weekend? As Molly chattered excitedly about her friend, Vincent observed her animated expressions, the spark of joy that had fully returned to her eyes. The child who had collapsed a year ago, poisoned by those meant to protect her, had been replaced by this vibrant, resilient girl, still bearing emotional scars, but healing and thriving under his protection. From the ashes of betrayal, Vincent had crafted not just revenge, but rebirth. He had systematically erased every threat, punished every transgression, and emerged with his position strengthened. The foundation would ensure Westerly's name was forever associated with medical criminality, while the Hargrove name would represent protection and advocacy. In the end, Vincent had done what he always did, protected what was his, destroyed those who threatened it, and turned catastrophe into advantage. Not through emotional outbursts or impulsive actions, but through calculated, meticulous planning that left no loose ends. As the sailboat glided across the lake's surface, Vincent allowed himself the satisfaction of completion. The ledger was balanced. Justice, his justice, had been served. And most importantly, Molly was safe, thriving under the protection of a father whose capacity for ruthlessness was matched only by his devotion to her. The weight of secrets had been lifted, replaced by the foundations of a new beginning. One built on the buried remains of those who had dared to threaten what Vincent Hargrove valued most. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.